Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome to Take Me Out to the Podcast. I am your host, Johnny Jackson, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Alec Palmer, Head of Marketing at Momentum. How are you doing today, Alec?
I'm good, Johnny. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me. So this semester, you started teaching a class at Baldwin Wallace, your alma mater. Can you tell me how that's going?
Yeah, it's yes. I started teaching a class called Sport Technology. It's in the sport management curriculum in that major. And it's been really cool. This week was my first week of class of being a professor. It was a really cool experience, but also I think the coolest part about it is that, I've been out of college for, including grad school, 18 months. So to already be back and, having students in my class that I was on campus with is kind of weird at first, but I think I'm really starting to, settle in. And this whole first week has kind of been, the syllabus, reviewing expectations, stuff like that. But actually tomorrow is Friday and I'll be starting actually teaching some real stuff now. So it's gonna be really cool to see. And I'm really excited for my students. They seem like they're excited. They seem like they're interested. So we'll see. We'll see at the end of the semester how it goes.
You've been at Momentum since April 2019, correct?
May 2019, but
May
yeah,
2019.
so I actually started with Trevor Bauer when he was with the Indians in March 2019. Started right after they got back from spring training. My first job with him was actually filming his move-in kind of vlog, little piece. So moving into his new apartment and everything, and then was freelance with him for about a month-ish. And then he offered me the full-time position as a videographer at Momentum. Yeah, in May.
That's awesome. And then in January, you were, I guess, promoted to Head of Marketing.
Yes. So kind of that whole path was videographer in May 2019, was that for a while, started to handle more social media, started to run the social media channels in the latter part of the summer, then was pretty much just doing social media, content creation, a little bit of editing here and there, the second half of 2019. And then I became director of marketing in January 1st, 2019. And since then, we've even hired 2 more employees. So it's been a crazy growth in the first less than 2 years with Momentum.
What are your daily responsibilities as head of marketing?
So it's a lot. It's interesting. So as a videographer and social manager, my work was very input A, output B. I could edit a video. I shot the video, edited the video. Said video was done. So it was very easy to see. When I transitioned to director of marketing, it became a lot more of, I guess, bigger picture, and not in the sense of importance, but a lot more abstract work. So working on really streamlining the rest of our operations. So figuring out our standing operating procedures, creating our company documents, monitoring, different analytics reporting, strategizing our go-to-market strategy, our new content strategy, building out our branding, our package, whether that's for a specific podcast or even for our decks that we send out to potential sponsors and stuff like that. So also I mentioned sponsors. I head up all the sponsorships and partnerships as well. So also doing a lot of cold calling in terms of that, trying to bring new partners on, work with our existing partners, that type of thing. So it's a lot more of a, I guess, quote unquote, management position. A lot more about, it might not necessarily be like day to day, I'm producing something tangible at the end of every day, but it's more about advancing the company as a whole, consulting with everybody at the company in their various aspects, like having an extra set of eyes on a new video, working with our incredible social manager, Madison, helping her out when she needs help, figuring out what's the best way to release, go to market, that thing, helping out, our other incredible new hire, Will, who's doing all of our podcasts and shows like that. So it's a lot of operational work, but this is exactly the type of stuff I like to do. I pride myself as being the jack of all trades and master of none. And some people are like, well, you should eventually get to be a master of something. And I'm like, well, I do have a master's degree, but I'll stay the jack of all trades.
You've kind of been there for at least most of it, and really close to the beginning. So what has the transition been like from Momentum as this sort of smaller fringe upstart media company to really a leader in quality national baseball content?
It's been crazy. I have to admit. When I came on, it was very small. It was we just started. So Tyke Green, the co-founder, and now our director of content, and Trevor Bauer started the company about January 2019. So I came on very quickly after that, but nonetheless, it was it was crazy to come into a startup, but that's the kind of stuff that gets me fired up. I have an accounting background. I was a tax intern. I worked retail. I worked for a professional soccer team. I did all these different odd jobs, but it always came back to, at every single one of those jobs, I ended up wanting to do the operational stuff, the much more abstract, bigger picture things like that. So once I realized that at Momentum, really taking hold of that and taking hold of advancing the company to grow and to scale, because I saw the potential, everyone at the company saw the potential, and it was just a matter of getting everyone else to see the potential. And I think you've really seen that in the last few months, especially as the vlog has happened and Bauer Bites kicking off for our second season. And what we're seeing from our end is, and this is something we've subscribed to since day one, is when people see our content, they love it. And that's the hardest part, is getting people to see our content. There's nothing like us especially in baseball, but really in
Oh
sports
yeah.
when you think about it. So once people see that, it's almost like showing them something they didn't know they needed. And then they're like, oh, why haven't we had this forever? Like, the funniest comments and the most true comments we get is people tagging MLB and is like, why aren't you doing this? And it's like, well, we don't want MLB to do this because we're doing it, but we get your point. But just seeing the growth both of the company and then all of us inside the company has been incredible. Tyke has become an incredible leader of the company, always accessible, always there to bounce ideas, or whether that's even like a personal problem that you have just kind of felt, he's there for you and everything. Scott, another, is our director of photography. He's been there from the get. He was there before me, and I promise you, there's not a better videographer, editor in the country, and I will go to the grave saying that he's an absolute whiz. And then bring on our other two newer employees with Madison and Will, have completely changed the game for us. It has freed myself up, has freed Tyke and Scott up as well, to really start pushing as hard as we can, because they were taking on very, very important jobs that take a lot of time. And once they could do that, and we saw how great they're doing, we were able to then really thrive in all of our separate positions. And then obviously you see Trevor doing his thing, being the most outspoken, always being there, the send it shirt, whatever it is, being able to capitalize. Anytime he's in the news, well, I guess most of the time he's in the news, it's good for business. Always good to get out there.
Did you have any idea he was going to just rip his jersey open and have the send it shirt on there?
No, it's actually funny. So I work very, very closely with his marketing agent, Morgan, and her and I pretty much do the same thing every day. But nonetheless, like, I talk to her 3 or 4 times a day, to be honest. And the fact that I didn't know about this was like pretty crazy. But when I saw it happen, yeah, she did. Okay. They had planned it. Everything that they have done has been a very carefully executed plan. It might seem very spontaneous, but there's a method to their madness. The Joe Kelly cleats, the deal with it shirt, the send it shirt, all of these different things. They're very good at understanding that, because one thing that I actually am going to be teaching my students this fall is that virality isn't always as spontaneous as people think. You can create moments that do become viral, not necessarily that immediately this is how good it's going to do, but what's going to hit, what's going to take off. And that was one of those things where we saw, or Morgan and Trevor saw, why don't people, especially have a complete game, a 7-inning doubleheader, camera goes right to the pitcher, the catcher, the branding opportunity, the anything opportunity at that very moment when the camera is just zoomed in was huge. And they saw that, they took it, and obviously no one's ever done it, and no one's really going to replicate it. And because Trevor is very outspoken, he'll do what he thinks is right. And I don't have to go deep into that. I think everyone in baseball knows that.
Yeah. Speaking of Trevor, what is the funniest Trevor Bauer story that you are allowed to tell me?
It's one that I think it's hilarious. So, um, we he has a short video on his YouTube, kind of about this situation. But so he has always been an Alabama football fan. He's a fan of success, is how he describes it, of excellence and success. Alabama football,
Duke
obviously.
basketball.
Duke basketball. He's a fan of that. So he wanted to go to the LSU Alabama game in Tuscaloosa last fall. So he asked me to come along. I was doing videography, and it was that. Then we were going to go up to Nashville to visit some of the some of his teammates that went to Vanderbilt, who train up at Vanderbilt. So it's only about like 4-hour drive between Tuscaloosa and Nashville. So fly down there. We meet up that night. The next day we drive up to Tuscaloosa, and we're at the game, and it's crazy. I mean, that was the most insane experience in my entire life. I mean, just being there was so cool. But it's funny. So after that, we had to drive to Nashville after that game. So we stopped, we got dinner, and we're driving in this little tin can of a rental car. It's like a Chevy Sonic. And, we're both, I mean, I'm 6 foot, he's like 6'1" or 6'2". So just being in that tiny car together with all of our luggage is already just hilarious in general. But anyways, we're driving we just crossed over into Tennessee, and I forget, it was like half an hour before like the gas light went on. And I'm like, oh, we probably should get gas. He's like, yeah. So we're driving. It's like 1 a.m. or something at this point, and we forget. And all of a sudden we pass another exit, and I'm like, did we ever get gas? He's like, no, we didn't. And we look down, and it's like blinking that we don't have any gas. All of a sudden, the car just stops accelerating.
Oh no!
And we're literally in the middle of the highway, in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, and we're like, what are we going to do? It's 1:30 in the morning. Like we can't do anything. So I was like on my phone, and I see that there's about like half a mile or so, there's a gas station down the highway. So we walk at 1:30 in the morning down all the way to this gas station, and we didn't have like a can. We didn't have anything to like get gas in. So we walk up, gas station closed. And then we're like, well, we like turn around. There's another gas station across the street. So there has to be. There's a guy over there in a truck. Already, this is like the start of a horror movie. Like 1:30 in the morning, guy in a truck at like a dimly lit gas station in the middle of nowhere. We walk over, and we're like, hey, do you have anything like that we can fill up our tank with? And he's like, no, sorry. So he ends up leaving. And then we look through the trash, and we find like a Gatorade bottle. And so we get some gas, and then a cop pulls up out of nowhere, and he's like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we ran out of gas like half a mile away, like whatever. So he finds a gallon jug of water, dumps it out for us, then lets us fill that up, and then he's like, all right, get in the back of the car. So we got in the back of this cop car. He drove us back to the car. We fill it up. And, then we continue driving. We finally got back on the road. And at that point, I'm thinking, when I watched Trevor pitch for UCLA in the College World Series, like was enthralled with him, just his being when I was younger and watching him pitch. And I sat there thinking, I'm like, if you would have told me, 13-year-old me that I would be running out of gas with Trevor Bauer in the middle of Tennessee, like at 1 a.m, I'd be like, yeah, you're out of your damn mind. So anyways, we finally get to Nashville, and we're checking in, and we have a company like Marriott card. So we're checking in and everything, and the lady's the nicest lady on earth, and she's like, oh, do you have a Marriott rewards card? I was like, yeah, actually I do. So she scanned it, and it's under the name Momentum Films. And she hands it back to me, or hands my phone back to me after she scanned it. She's like, thank you for staying with us, Mr. Films. And so that's hilarious already. She thought that was my last name. And then she tells us, she's like, actually, she's like, she had no idea who Trevor was, no idea why we were there, whatever. And she was like, actually, she's like, the Chiefs were in town to play the Titans. And she's like, if you get down here early, you might be able to see some of the Chiefs come out. And so then we walk away, and he's like, that's how the autograph hounds always find us, because the people at the hotel are saying it. But no, nonetheless, it was just a hilarious night. Like, I mean, we didn't get into the hotel till like 3 a.m. that night, just such a ridiculous time. And that lady at the front desk was the nicest person we've ever met. And the running out of gas and all of it, just absolutely absurd, but just hilarious all around.
Yeah, so that's one of your big stories. So why do you think some of these so many professional athletes keep coming to Momentum to tell their stories?
We pride ourselves on being for the players, and there's a lot of I'm not naming, I don't have any outlets like directly in mind or anything. There's a lot of outlets and media companies and journalists and all of it who are like, oh, we're for the player. But, as we see, especially with events like last night, that's not always the case. And they are always about, what's going to get the clicks, what's going to advance the story, all that. And you know what? I respect the journalism field. I have the utmost respect for them and all, but there's a lot of, clickbait and clicks drive and the headlines have to pop, and whether or not it's always the full truth sometimes falls by the wayside, which is very unfortunate. But nonetheless, we look at it like we're working directly for the player, and when the player comes to us with a story, we want to represent them in the light that they want to be represented, and that's why they have final say. We send all of our content to the player to see it, and if they're like, hey, you know what, I know it's probably fine, but I don't really like how I said, this part. And we're like, we'll if we think it's important, we'll explain it to them how it looks, whatever. Not arguing with them at all. Explain our side, that we hear their side, and we're like, okay, yeah, we can take that out for sure. Whatever they want. Or we've had the other way where it's like, we don't really know if this is going to be great, so we send it back to them, and they're like, no, please, for sure, keep that in. That's awesome. And that's when we kind of really feel validated, is seeing that part, is like they are excited to tell their stories, because MLB, I do have to give them credit. They are, at least I think, starting to see that fans like to see this type of content. They're starting MLB originals. They're trying to start different things. But nonetheless, players are always going to be a little bit more reserved when they're talking to MLB or MLB affiliated outlets, content like that. Just, you would feel the same way when you're talking to your boss or the company that you work for. You're always going to feel that way. But when they come to us, we're truly a neutral third party. We're founded by an active player, and not to mention the most outspoken player.
Yes.
But when we have that, we have no choice but to give them pretty much full control. And at the end of the day, that's what we are here for. We are here to give them a platform. Momentum exists to connect fans with athletes through whatever storytelling mode we feel, on the most human level possible. And whether that's Bauer Bites, Live at Bats, Corked Up, Coach Kent podcast, or anything else we release, that's the ethos of how we operate. And everything always has to answer that question: is, are we connecting those fans with the athletes on a human level? And so far, I think we've done a kick-ass job. And it's exciting to kind of see everything else we can continue to do and continue to push this game forward.
Speaking of Coach Kent Murphy, how did you guys pull him out of retirement? How did that happen?
Yeah, it's so we had it was an interesting kind of it was like a friendship or something kind of just came up where we're like, oh yeah, we have Coach Kent, and I'm like, yeah, I know Coach Kent. Like, I mean, everybody who played baseball knows Coach Kent. I mean, realistically, just outside people know his catchphrases and stuff like that. So we got him to come to the All-Star game in Cleveland, film some stuff there, did his whole like really dramatic trailer comeback, all of that, and people were just so excited. So he got like reinvigorated to do it, and so he started doing some more content, and then we brought him out to spring training. We did some content there, and now he's got this podcast, and it's something that we're working on continuously, trying to grow each day, and I think it is, and I think it's doing well. And it's really about figuring out how to really develop his character, but stay true to who he is. And he's done. Nick is Coach Ken, and he's done an incredible job. He's hilarious at all times, and I tell you what, even just like the person behind Coach Kent is just the same personality, just like brought back down brought back down to earth. So he's a really great guy, really incredible to work with. And yeah, it kind of is hilarious. We work with athletes all across, the league, and I've never been starstruck. But I tell you what, when we were filming that trailer, it was the first time I had met him. He puts on the hat, on the shirt, into the voice. I was completely starstruck. I'm like, this is Coach Kent. I was like, I watched him for years.
Oh man, I remember watching him just in the between games at tournaments, just
Yeah.
chilling with the ball.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's
Yep.
the first time you were ever just like, wow, like he's in front of me right now.
It was it was crazy. It was just so funny just watching him get right into character, just like that. Puts a hat on, does it right into it. It's amazing. It's really cool to watch.
Yeah, so you guys have had just some incredible athletes, some incredible personalities come to you guys at Momentum. But who's the best human being that you've had the chance to speak with since joining Momentum?
That's tough. I mean, I don't think I've had a bad experience with a single guy that we've worked with, or whoever we've worked with. We work with some guys obviously a little closer than the others, but I always like to go to this one is because I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm a Pirates fan. In 2018 or 2018 or early 2019, Derek Dietrich launching every single pitch from Chris Archer into the river, bat flipping, and as a unbiased Pirates fan, made me so mad. Obviously, I mean, just the competitiveness, and I have not met a more genuine person, a cooler guy than Derek, and he's someone that I can text him, check up, and he's doing well. He's always excited to help us out, and he puts on like a very flashy persona, and the chain and the bat flips, but he's one of the most genuine people. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and quite frankly, he's just an absolute blast to be around. We have some new content that we filmed before at the early part of spring training with one of our partners, and I'll talk about it real quickly. It's a ping pong pros versus Joes is one of our partners we worked with. It's a couple of their employees versus Derek and Trevor doing all these different ping pong kind of mini games and stuff. And I'll keep this part a secret. If you watch it, you're going to know the part that will crack you up about Derek. It's going to be very apparent. But it's that really goes to show he's such a fun personality, just a good guy to hang around. So, every single guy we work with is amazing. It truly goes to show that, when we work with these guys and the content we create, there's so much more than athletes. There's so much more than just for our entertainment. They're real people too. They have feelings. They have, they get angry, they get sad, they get happy. They go through the same things as, they deal with bad landlords. Anything that we do as regular people, they do the same thing. And it's something that gets lost. And I think when you look at something like last night, specifically with the Bucks setting the standard for sitting out the game, the rest of the NBA, MLB, MLS, tennis, all these other sports setting the example. That's one thing where I always reflect back is, I wholeheartedly support them. I support that movement. I support the Black Lives Matter movement and all of that. And I always look at it as these are real people. These athletes they don't exist just for our entertainment. They exist because they are also real people. And that's something I think gets lost when sports are going good and, you're living or dying by the outcome of that sport, however your team does that night. You always get reminded in times like this that they are regular people and they feel the same way we do. So, that's, I know it's kind of a little bit off topic, but that's kind of the ethos of Momentum, is showing that these guys are real people, and we want to be that platform for them to help express themselves.
What is a purchase of $100 or less that has most positively impacted your life in the past 6 months or in recent memory?
Does it have to be a one-time purchase, or can it be every purchase is less than $100? It's a recurring purchase.
It can be anything. Yeah.
Okay. I would say, a more material thing would be my a couple of the books that I've bought. specifically from Jeremy Darlow, is a big brand advocate for big, sports marketing kind of, I hate to use the word guru, but like that, that type of person. He's incredible. A couple of those books, but I mean, if we're getting a little bit, I guess, more real on that, I think it's something I've been very outspoken on my personal channels is, I attend weekly therapy sessions, and that is one of the most transformative things that I've done in the last few months. One thing, and I like to help kind of end that stigma of feeling like mental health is something we can't talk about, or it's like, oh, you go to therapy, like kind of that. I want to help end that, because to me it's helped me more than I ever could have thought, and I want to share that knowledge with other people, is that we're all in this together. There's no shame in feeling, especially working in sports, man. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in my position, if you're a journalist, if you're a commentator, an athlete, or whatever. Sports are the most rewarding, but they are also the most disappointing. One of the most disappointing things you can experience. I mean, it is such a live fast and love fast. It's so fast paced and so many things can change. It's tough, and we see a lot of people in sports who end up struggling with their mental health. And when I preach about going to therapy, and you don't always need an issue to go to therapy, and my therapist has been amazing, and one thing he's always said to me, he's like, listen, I'm not here to give you all the answers. I don't have them. He's like, I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to do anything. The best thing I can do is hear what you have to say, help you organize your thoughts, because you already have all the answers that you need. And when he said that, instantly clicked in my head. And that's why I look forward. I start every week with it, and I'm able to talk to him, and I can say kind of what I'm thinking. And he's like, okay, so here's what you said to me. Now, how are you interpreting that? And then I can break things down. And I'll continue to help lead that charge and be there for people. And any listeners, my DMs are always open if you ever need someone to talk to or anything like that. It's something very close to home with me. And I know in sports, it's always something where it kind of takes a back seat, because sports gives this very not fantasy land, but it's like, how can you ever be mad when you're winning, or upset or sad when you're winning championships? And then you see people like Kevin Love, who's always been very outspoken. He's like, it doesn't matter how good you're doing, if inside your head doesn't matter. That's, or what, inside your head doesn't care about what's happening outside. And it's very cool to see that. I really do see a lot more people talking about it, more prominent people talking about it, and I just think that's only going to be helpful. So I know that was probably a little bit deeper of an answer you were expecting, but nonetheless, I mean, I got to stay true to myself, and that truly is the best thing I've done for under $100.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm very much in the camp that I feel like everyone should go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
At least because for a lot of people, there's a lot of stuff that maybe they haven't really thought about dealing with, or a lot of stuff they're going through just in their daily lives. And I saw on your LinkedIn that it said 2 months ago in the post, but I don't know if it's a little bit more or less, you collaborated with Matthew Desmond on a mental health awareness breakout session with sports creative community. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So the sports creative community, I mean, I joined it very early on. I mean, probably 3 years now. I mean, almost, I know time goes so fast. But nonetheless, I joined that, and Matt was I think he was like the creator of it, or there might've been a few other people. So I apologize if there are other people who were involved, but Matt, I know, is kind of the genesis of that whole group. And it's grown to incredible heights, and has helped me and helped other creatives in the sports world more than we probably could ever imagine. So I had put a thread out on Twitter, basically saying that mental health is often considered a workplace hazard for working in sports. And I went into more depth about how we're expected to perform for thousands or tens of thousands and millions of followers day in, day out. It never stops, 24/7. People can watch your content at 4 a.m. They can watch it at 6 a.m. Like, doesn't matter what time it is, they have access. And it's very similar to you look at performers, and I think musicians and actors, they're always the most prominent cases of mental health struggles. And you just see in the last year or so, I mean, Robin Williams, Juice World, Mac Miller, like very prominent cases. And it always stems from that dopamine of people loving what you created is unmatched. There's nothing that can recreate that feeling. And when you're constantly chasing that and needing that and figuring out ways to get to that point, it becomes very wearing on you. And that was what my thread was essentially about, is that's just, there's nothing different about that than being, in sports. And whether you're the athlete actually doing the performance, or you were the behind the scenes person having to create the content about the athlete, it's the same mindset. So once I did that, Matt had reached out and said, "Hey, we've been thinking about doing some mental health breakout sessions. Would you be interested in help leading one?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'd love to." I think we had like 50 plus people in there. We had like 5 or 6 leaders, and it was really cool to see. And it's always going to be somewhat of an uncomfortable topic to talk about. It's very personal. You have to be very open to shedding light on that part of your life. But to see that many people who, whether or not they're going through something or they just want to learn more, be there, is really incredible. And I hope that continues to grow. And, a huge shout out to Matt for organizing that and continuing to make that a priority, because that's something I see every day is mental health in sports, especially, is something a lot of people take for granted, but is becoming a huge, huge issue, I believe.
How has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for a future success? And do you have a favorite failure of yours?
So we'll go two. I think one is more recent, but one taught me one of my biggest kind of my motivations, determinations, that type of thing. So I was working for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, which is a USL second tier soccer team in Pittsburgh, professional soccer team. They're the feeder team for the Columbus Crew of the MLS. So I was working for them as an intern, and I tried to take as much ownership as I could, do as much as I possibly could with them. And my boss, I had 2 bosses there. Jordan Kay was the director of marketing, and Julie Klausner was the head of partnerships and corporate sponsors. So I worked under both of them, and Jordan was just incredible mentor, friend, all that. Still keep in contact with him. He's a great person. But the biggest kind of experience I had there was twofold, where Julie had us, myself and another intern, kind of go cold calling to some businesses, try to get them to be a sponsor, whatnot. So we walked into a gym, and we went up, and the general manager was very excited to talk to us and all this stuff. And he's saying all the right things. He's super interested. He's like, "Yeah, I'd love to come to a game. Like, I'll bring some of my employees. Like, this sounds like right up our alley." So end up, he comes. I don't even know if he came to the game or not, to be honest. Nonetheless, it was all big play. He just wanted kind of the free stuff and to move on. And myself and Connor was the other intern. We sat there kind of defeated, like felt used and kind of like, what was that? It was weird. And she's like, I've talked to them a million times. I know that's what they do. She's like, but you guys needed to experience that type of thing if you're going to work in this type of industry. And it sucked, obviously, while it happened. But looking back, I carry that with me a lot. And knowing that not everyone's going to say yes, not everyone's has like good intentions. Not that I'm cynical, but you have to always keep that in mind when you're in sales, because some people are going to take advantage of the position you're in, especially if you're in sports. Because again, like I said, it's such a big draw for people and kind of thinks it's all fun and all the time. So that was one kind of fair. It's a little bit, I guess, more mission driven. But the other big failure per se was, really the only reason I started working for Momentum was it was towards the end of my my 5th year when I was finishing grad school. I went to 5 years straight of undergrad and straight into grad school. So end of my 5th year, and I'm looking for jobs. This was before I had been offered the job at Momentum. I was just doing some freelance work for Trevor. Didn't know if it was going to kind of pan out or not, which, I had no idea. It wasn't anything bad. It was just, I had no idea. So I was looking for jobs, interviewing back and forth, and like wasn't getting jobs, wasn't getting called back. And it was just like, I remember vividly, my mom had came up, it was about a 2-hour drive. She drove up to Cleveland. We were just having lunch, and I'm just sitting there, like just on the verge of tears. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, I don't know what else I can do. I've been looking for jobs. I've been interviewing. I thought all these have went really well, and I really had some self-doubt going. And, she's always been my biggest supporter, like, my best friend, all of that. So we're sitting there, and, she's like, it'll work out. Like, all this is working for a reason. And then, I didn't really realize that until like that week. It was crazy. It was like, then all of a sudden I got a call from one of the other jobs I was waiting for. And Trevor was like, had asked, he's like, can we meet for breakfast? I want to talk to you about some things. And that's when he offered me the position to be full time. I was waiting for one more call back from another university, and they said no, that I didn't get the job. Immediately was like, I was just waiting for my own personal closure. I knew I was taking the job with momentum. I took the job, and it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And it wasn't so much of like a direct failure, but it was more about like being in that place of self-doubt, being able to continuously like just see that I was getting rejected, and I kept not getting jobs and not getting interviews. And it's just like, am I cut out for this? Like, why am I doing this? And it led right up to the what I'm still doing. And it's been the best experience of my life. So it's always funny how things work out. And when you're in that rock bottom, or whatever you might think, or you feel like everything's kind of going against you, every time that's happened to me, like right on the other end of that is something great that has happened. Again, it was the same thing that happened with me teaching. I was kind of, it's like, I was kind of having that itch to want to go back to school, or maybe like try to take up something else, and, not to leave momentum at all, but like I needed something else to kind of keep going. And then I got a text from one of the professors, and then now here I am teaching that class.
Awesome. And I'm really happy that it's worked out for you so far.
I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah. So, what are some of the bad recommendations that you've heard from people in your field about what you do and what you're trying to do with momentum?
So in terms of momentum, people have kind of looked at us like, well, why are you trying to go against MLB? Like, they're doing a good job. And, it's been kind of more, I guess, public that, I'm not necessarily name dropping at all, but, recently there's been players who have went back on Trevor for doing the vlog, or Scott Boras coming out and making an issue about Trevor doing the vlog. And it's just like, that's kind of like a microcosm of the real uncomfortability of baseball culture. It's very, very discouraging, baseball culture. We talk about this with all the players we work with. Day one, you show up, it is beaten out of you to be your own person, like to not be your own person. It's like, you are for the team. You don't make a deal. You've seen in Bull Durham, where I think it's like Crash talking about, oh, here's the cliches, say these, it's true. That's what happens. That's really what happens.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because, like I said earlier in the discussion, these guys are crazy. They're amazing. They're hilarious. They're outgoing. They're always doing all these crazy things. But you don't see that. You see, you see in the interview, it was a team win. Really proud of everyone. They all same thing. Yeah. Just repackaged, different words, whatever. So agitating. And that's just been a big thing. Is baseball culture has put a ton of backlash. And with Trevor doing the vlog specifically, people are like, whoa, like, we don't want them seeing. And he's like, what? People have loved that we've done this. People love seeing all these supporting cast and the different people who go in and out. Oh, I didn't know that Amir Garrett was hilarious. I didn't know that, like Kyle Farmer can do a great Luke Bryan impression. Like, all these random things that you just don't know. And just baseball culture, I think, is the biggest backlash. And kind of, it's the same thing you're seeing. Everyone got people, the old heads got mad at Tatis for
my god,
for the 3-0 count and bat flipping. And it's all the unwritten rules and all that stuff. And it's those same people complain about us. And at the end of the day, that's fine. They're going to retire. They're going to age out. they're all going to become, nobodies, just like Aubrey Huff, and just trying to scratch at any relevance possible, whether or not, you're a good person or not, just trying to do whatever you can to stay in the limelight. And they'll all be gone and be out of the limelight soon. And we're really hoping that this new generation of players, the Nick Heaths of the world, the Khalil Lees, the, Joe Adells, the Tatis, Jahmai Jones, like all these guys that are coming up, they grew up with social media. They grew up with content. They grew through all of this. And I think we're really going to see a big difference. It's just a matter of if the league approaches it like an NBA. When the NBA saw that this was happening, they went all in. And now you see that they're they're the prime example for a player-led league. And that's what it should be. It shouldn't be, 30 super rich guys running the league. It should be the 650 baseball players running the league. It's the same thing. So it's really just baseball culture that's been the backlash. All the fans love it. I haven't seen a fan who's like, "Oh, this is bad for the game." It doesn't happen.
Do you feel like you have to break the players out of those sort of cliches, or do you feel like when they come to momentum, they're really ready to express their full personalities?
Oh, I mean, there are some players who are absolutely ready right away. There are also some players who aren't ready at all. But we also have to make sure we understand where that player is coming from. If it's a point of fear or, they've never been encouraged to be themselves, we can play a role in helping them. But if it's a point where like they just don't want to do content, Mike Trout, great example.
Yeah.
Like he made his money. He's like, listen, I have no desire to do all this other extra stuff. Like I don't want to. And you know what? That's okay. We don't have to make Mike Trout the content, king and the king of baseball. Like he can just be good at his sport and he doesn't have to. The thing that people always forget is baseball players didn't set out, or professional athletes, not speaking for all of them, but a lot of professional athletes didn't set out to become entertainers. They became entertainers because they were a professional athlete. Entertainers, actors, musicians almost always set out to become an entertainer. Some did accidentally just become this huge thing, but nonetheless, it's very different. Why, the entertainment sphere is the same, but it's very different, those paths. So there's guys that are just not going to want to do it. But there's also guys, when we talk to some of these minor leaguers in spring training, we had a branding workshop, and some of them were talking about how the team won't even let them wear, if they're not with the big league team, they won't even let them wear like the big league team's insignia. They're like, no, you can't, you haven't earned it. And it's like, dude, if I'm a high school kid who just got drafted by the A's and I'm wearing my hat and my jacket everywhere I can go.
Oh yeah, where to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they don't want them to do that is right there. You see the issue. And that, I'm not saying it was the A's. That was just an example. But nonetheless, it's that type of mindset where it's like, listen, let people be themselves. You see it. Here's the thing. MLB is very risk averse. They will always try to get away from like anything that could cause an issue. But when you're growing, when you're progressing, you're going to mess up. Look at the NBA, look at the NFL, the two that lead in player-led leagues. They've messed up for sure. But you know what they did? They failed fast and they moved on and they corrected the issue. And now look where they are. That's always going to happen. And until there's a change in the culture and the mindset from the top down, that's never going to happen in baseball. So it's either going to happen with the players forcing it to happen, or there's a major change at the executive leadership level. So, that all kind of goes back to my frustrations with baseball culture and everything like that. But, nonetheless, it's, I think we're heading down the right path. I really do.
What's the project or the piece of content that you're most proud of during your time at Momentum?
So I'm proud of everything we do, obviously. I love everything we're doing. I mean, personally, the thing that's meant the most to me has been the Traded documentary, which was when Trevor got traded from the Indians to the Reds. And I was with him at his hip for 7 days straight. And it gave me a completely new perspective on what these guys go through during a midseason trade. It was insane. We were up till 4 a.m. packing up his apartment, filming, doing all this stuff, only to be on a plane by like 8 a.m. and then flying down. Meanwhile, closing on his apartment. I mean, like to the point where he gave me his keys and was like, "Can you drop these off at the leasing office? And can you get the boxes out of my apartment? I don't have time. Like I have to be in Atlanta in 2 days." And it's just like all those things that just no one thinks about. And to see that firsthand, then to be able to record it and document it, and then to watch it go out. I mean, it was just, it wasn't our most professional piece of content, but I thought it was one of the most powerful and most informative because you got to see, it showed fans something that they've never seen before. No one has ever shown as in depth as what we did. And that's what I feel like Traded was kind of the perfect encapsulation of what we try to do. That and Bauer Bites, I think we try to showcase the very inside baseball, but also these people are human. I mean, when you're watching Trevor just look exhausted on his phone, like texting back the traveling secretary for the Reds, trying to figure out when he's flying, when, all this stuff, it's crazy. So, nonetheless, it was awesome, obviously, to go through that, but even to, create it and then let other people see that inside access was really, really awesome.
Yeah. Alec, you've been great. Thanks so much for talking to me for this long. And just to close it out, if you could sit in a room with anyone for 30 or 40 minutes, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good one. If I could sit in a room with anyone,
alive or dead?
Honestly, it kind of like a little out of the box. I would love to just sit in a room with Mac Miller. I think he has such a cool he had such a cool look on life and was very introspective, and it would just be really cool to just experience how he feels and be able to talk with him. And I feel like I don't even know him, but I feel like he put on that feel like if you saw him in a subway, he would be happy to sit there and talk to you. So rest in peace. I wish I could do it, but I really do think that would be a really awesome 40 minutes to spend with him.
Alec, thanks for joining us
problem.
today. And everyone who's watching, check back next week. We'll have another great guest, more great content.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Johnny.
Be a Saints fan right now.
Dude,
I'd be so
guys.
I can't believe that ridiculous no call.
Bro, I'm puzzled. If they would have made that call, who do you think would have been in the Super Bowl? The Saints would have been the Super Bowl. Come on now.
The refs, they need to be punished.
Oh, hey guys. Did you see my missed call last week? Could have sent that team to the championship. I guess not.
I can't take this anymore.
What's up with this guy?
Welcome back to Take Me Out to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Alec Palmer, Director of Marketing at Momentum. And now I am here with Alex Funderburke, HTF rookie. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. And we've got about a week left of the season, but it is never too early for some postseason predictions. I'm looking at Alex's bracket right now. He has the Dodgers beating the Brewers in 2. I don't disagree with that at all. The Brewers are pretty bad. They've got Corbin Burns. That's about it. Do you see any way they could realistically challenge the Dodgers?
The only way they can realistically challenge them is Corbin Burns. Like that. That's their only hope. If he can pitch well, maybe. But outside of that, no. The Dodgers have too much firepower for Milwaukee.
We both also have the Padres beating the Marlins. I mean, the Marlins have been such a Cinderella story, but are they realistically World Series contenders? No. They've got some great young pitching, but the lineup, the bullpen, it's not there. Do you see anything different?
No, I mean, they've been really fun to watch. I mean, they're pitching with Sixto Sanchez, Sandy Alcantara. Like, they've been a lot of fun, but the Padres, much like the Dodgers, just have too much firepower. I think the Marlins will be a player in seasons to come, but this isn't their year.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing teams like the Padres, the White Sox, the Marlins, probably about a year or two ahead of where most people expected them to compete. I mean, how big is that for those young teams and even some of the veterans on those teams being able to say, hey, we are here and we are ready for the World Series?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, coming into the season, you would not expect the Padres to be a legitimate World Series contender, but here they are. Or the Marlins, Toronto's even a little bit ahead of schedule, and it's really fun seeing these young cores kind of grow up together and be ahead of schedule. Like, we all expected the Marlins to be good in a few years, but the fact that they're here now, short season, yes. Would they make it to the end of a 162? Maybe not, but in a 60-game schedule, it's a lot of fun to see them in the picture. And who knows? Yeah, I don't expect them to go far, but they might be able to make a run.
Yeah, and a team like the Cubs, they're kind of on the other end of that. If this was a 162-game season, they would probably have fallen out of it significantly at this point because their lineup is just so bad.
Yep. And so they're not hitting. The Reds don't really hit either. But I gave the edge to the Reds just because of their pitching. Sonny Gray, Bauer, Castillo, all of them are. I mean, Bauer's a Cy Young candidate, so that's why I gave them the edge there. But like you said, if this was 162, I don't think the Cubs make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And then the Braves and the Cardinals, that's just kind of setting up for who's going to take on either the Dodgers or the Padres in the NLCS, in my opinion. That Dodgers-Padres series, you have the Padres coming on top. I have the Dodgers. Little bit of a bias for me, a lot of bias for me, actually. Why do you see the Padres beating the Dodgers?
I don't know. I like the Padres vibe. Like, there's something about them. And after Yankees games, I'm a big Yankee fan. I find myself watching the Padres. They're that late game, 9:30, 10 o'clock start. Always find myself watching them, and they're just a lot of fun. They can hit. They have Dinelson Lamet, who's one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. He's absolutely shoving, and there's just something. They have it. Like, there's nothing like this is why they'll win. They just have that it factor that most teams don't have, and I think the Dodgers have it too. I mean, Mookie Betts is an MVP candidate. He's right there, but there's just something about the Padres this year.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people kind of give me crap for this, but I, as a Dodgers fan, I love the Padres being good because it just feels so much more satisfying to just absolutely trounce them in the regular season and the playoffs. It's like when the Red Sox are good, those Red Sox Yankees series, when you beat them like even barely, or when you put up 20 on them. This year, it doesn't feel that great because they have like a starting pitcher and a half. Next year,
they have Eovaldi and garbage.
Martin Perez is there for like 10 starts. It's just they're rough. They're looking down.
Yeah, very rough, very rough.
Now, another way that we differ is with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay and the White Sox. I have Tampa Bay going to the World Series. You have the White Sox in the World Series.
Yep.
Both of those teams are just so exciting, fun to watch, great pitching. The White Sox definitely have the edge in the offense. Why do you see the White Sox winning?
It's just something about the Rays in the playoffs. They don't seem to get over the hump. Like, they can get there, they have great regular seasons, but they can't get over the hump. And I don't think that they can get over the hump this year. I think the White Sox offense is just too powerful. Tampa has the edge in pitching, but then after that, I think the bats of Chicago with Tim Anderson, Luis Robert, all those guys, I think gives them the edge.
How do you think, because there's no off days in the seasons or in the series, until the World Series. Do you think that might hurt the White Sox a little bit because of how top heavy their bullpen is?
I think it will play a role, but I don't think the Rays bats will come alive. I think outside of Brendan Lowe, I don't see much damage being done by the Rays in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't see Ji-Man Choi just picking up an at-bat right-handed and going deep again.
As long as Ji-Man Choi doesn't face Garrett Cole, we're good. Because for some reason he owns Garrett Cole. It doesn't make any sense.
The Rays seem to own Garrett Cole. It's very strange.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. There's Garrett Cole is only owned by one team, and it's everyone on Tampa. It doesn't make sense.
And how disappointing is it? We talked a little bit before about Paxton and Severino and Domingo Germán being out, and how that's really screwed the Yankees because their starting rotation has not been up to snuff.
Yep. It's another year with the injury bug. I mean, it sucks, but I think Paxton going down, yes, it hurt, but I think it kind of was a blessing in disguise because we got to see Deivi Garcia, and Deivi Garcia has been shoving. and he's been outstanding. Now, can we trust him in the playoffs? I don't know. He's still a rookie, but J.A. Happ has turned it around. He started really rough, but his last 6 starts have been great. Outside of that, we'll have to see. I mean, no Pax in the playoffs is definitely going to hurt, and that's why I gave the edge to the Rays in the ALDS. But not having Severino or Herman come playoff time is definitely gonna hurt.
Yeah, and your World Series MVP, Dinelson Lamet.
Yep.
Why? It's very hard for a pitcher to win that award.
It is.
He's got to throw. You had 7 games. He's got to throw 2 or 3 just absolute gems. Do you see that happening back to back to back against the White Sox?
So I actually do. So he's in the top 7% in strikeout percentage, and the White Sox strike out a lot. They have the 5th most in the league right now, 517. So, and then he switched up his pitch mix. He's throwing his slider a whole lot more and completely ditched his curveball. So I think he's going to get a lot of strikeouts against this White Sox team. And I think he'll go 3 starts. I think they'll give him like 1, 4, and 7, because I do think it's going to go 7. And yeah, Strasburg won it last year, right? So we're going to get back-to-back years with a pitcher.
Do you think that if just the rotation shakes out because of the other series, do you think if Dinelson Lamet only gets 2 starts, he could still get it?
I think it'd be much harder. I think if he only gets 2 starts, I would tend to lean either Tatis or Machado getting it, because I think they'll perform well. But if he gets 3 starts, I do think it'll be him.
Yeah. So how about Manny Machado, one of the most disappointing players in baseball last year? I feel like that's pretty fair to say. Him turning it around, one of the best third basemen of this generation. That's a lot to say. We're probably living in one of the best, just complete generations of third basemen in history. How important has Manny Machado been to those Padres, and how important will he be in those playoffs?
I think he's been huge, because Tatis started off strong, but he's kind of tailed off of late, and Manny Machado has been right there to pick up the slack. And to have that duo at short and third is huge. I mean, he's hitting .314 right now with an OPS of .963. Like, that's really good. And like you said, last year he was super disappointing. He just did not perform. Everyone was questioning that contract he got, but he's showing, I'm still worth it. Like, you paid me a lot of money and I'm performing. And I think to have that bat in the playoffs, I think he performed in the playoffs with the Dodgers and performed in the playoffs with Baltimore. So to see him in the playoffs again will be a lot of fun. I think he made the playoffs once in Baltimore.
Yeah, they were not very good.
Yeah. I think they made one like his 2nd or 3rd year. But outside of that, when he was with LA, he performed well. So to see him there again is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are going to win. Part of that's hometown bias. Part of that is I just truly think that they are the best team in baseball. And for them to be upset, it's going to make me cry in the bathtub, just play some Marvin's Room. But also just, I mean, Corey Seager has been lights out. He's been, in my opinion, the best complete shortstop in baseball, with Tatis falling off the way he has. Trey Turner's been good. Seager's been better. Seager has the defense. He has, I think he's still top 5 in barrel rate among all hitters, period, not just shortstops. Another home run last night in the division clinching game. He's back. Corey Seager's back to his first couple of years, that rookie of the year, Corey Seager. He's back. I don't see anyone else really challenging him unless Jock has one of those series like he had a couple of years ago where he just hits a home run every at bat. I don't see it happening. I see the Dodgers winning out. I mean, why the Padres to win the whole thing?
I think they have so if they can get past the Dodgers, I think if the winner of that Dodgers-Padres series will win the World Series. I think both teams have enough firepower to get past Chicago in a close one. But I think Chicago and San Diego are the 2 most fun teams in baseball right now. And they just both have that it factor. There's just something about them. Like they're just destined to make a run. They're like that Nationals team last year. You just had a feeling they were going to do something. And I have that feeling with both of those teams this year. And I think San Diego's pitching puts them over the top against Chicago.
That's great. I will agree. Those 2 teams are the most fun teams in baseball. Alex, thank you so much for coming on. And everyone watching and or listening, Stay tuned. We got some great baseball content in the weeks to come with the playoffs heating up. See you next week.
Thank you for having me.